What if convenience is just another word for control? Imagine a world where the door unlocks just for you. You walk into a store and there's no key, no card, no please enter your PIN. Your phone vibrates. Your lab results are ready, delivered instantly, securely, without you filling out a single form. You get to the airport and security feels almost frictionless because your face is your boarding pass. It sounds like a scene from a sci-fi movie, but this is exactly the kind of future digital ID are promising. And then, here's the uncomfortable part. What if that same system keeps a record of every purchase you make, every clinic you visit, every place you travel, and every protest you join? Because that's the real question. Not can digital ID work? They can. The real question is, who controls them, and what does that control do to the last scraps of privacy we still have? At the most basic level, a digital ID is just an electronic version of your identity. Think of it like a driver's license that lives on your phone, or maybe it's embedded in a chip. But unlike the plastic card in your wallet, this digital version can hold far more than your name and photo. It can bundle your medical history, your credit score, your vaccination status, your financial activity, even your voting record, into one portable identity that can be called up in seconds. Supporters say this is all about convenience. No more lost paperwork, no more standing in line, no more juggling passwords. Governments like it because it streamlines services. Businesses like it because it speeds up verification. Need to prove you're old enough for an online purchase? A quick scan, done. Need to confirm eligibility for benefits? Tap a button, done. But done can cut both ways. The same infrastructure that makes a process easier also makes it easier to restrict, to deny, to exclude. And that's why digital ID are not just a tech upgrade. They're a power upgrade. Now let's talk about how these systems actually recognize you. In practice, digital ID are often tied to biometrics. Things like fingerprints, facial recognition, sometimes even patterns like your gait or the way you type. And that sounds secure until you remember one key detail. You can change a password. You can't change your face. Once your identity is you, rendered into data points, the stakes change. A camera scans your face at a bank and matches it to your profile in a database. A pharmacy checks your ID and pulls up your records. A venue uses it to verify whether you meet whatever the current requirements happen to be. And if those requirements change, the system doesn't argue. It just enforces. We've already seen versions of this. China's social credit model is often used as the reference point. Identity fused with behavior, reward, and punishment baked into daily life. What's new now is the global push to normalize similar tools everywhere. The conversation isn't happening in one country. It's happening across continents, and it's picking up speed. And here's the thing, the real power of digital ID isn't just identification. It's linkage. Right now, most of our lives exist in separate silos. Your medical records are over here. Your bank is over there. Your social media is somewhere else. It's inconvenient, sure, but it also creates a kind of accidental privacy. Not perfect privacy, but separation. A digital ID can smash those silos together. It can become the bridge that turns your life into one single, searchable profile. And once you have that, new forms of control become almost automatic. Imagine applying for a loan and being denied, not because you missed payments, but because an algorithm labels you high risk based on something outside finance. Maybe who you donated to, maybe what you posted, maybe which causes you supported. Imagine being screened out of a job because your digital profile shows you questioned a narrative online at some point. In a world where identity and behavior merge, dissent doesn't just get you criticized, it gets you flagged. And even if you don't believe anyone would ever use the system that way, you still have to face a simpler, scarier reality. If the system can do it, eventually someone will try. Of course, the sales pitch always circles back to security. They'll tell you digital ID reduce fraud. They'll tell you they stop identity theft. They'll tell you that with verified identities, cybercrime becomes harder. And yes, there's a version of that story that makes sense. Fraud and identity theft are not small problems. They're brutal. They cost people money, time, stress, and sometimes years of cleanup. For example, The Federal Trade Commission reported that consumers lost over $10 billion to fraud in 2023, with identity theft accounting for a large share of that damage. And if you've ever had to unwind a stolen identity, you know it's not just numbers. It's hours on the phone, frozen accounts, and that lingering feeling that your personal data is still out there, floating around, waiting to be used again. So yes, in theory, a strong, verified identity could prevent a lot of that by authenticating transactions in real time. But here's the question nobody likes to ask: security for whom? Because when your entire life is stored in a system, you're only as safe as the weakest link in that system. And history has shown us, again and again, that the links break. In 2021, Illinois' Vax Verify portal, built to store vaccination records, was hacked within weeks of its launch. That same year, France's digital health pass system was exploited and fake COVID certificates were sold on the dark web. And that's the point. It doesn't matter how noble the intention was at launch. Once a system exists, it becomes a target. And when it's tied to your personhood, a breach isn't just a technical failure. It feels like a violation. Now, that's just the outside threat. There's also the inside threat, the people who hold the keys. Because when your identity is digitized, control isn't only about who hacks the system. It's about who administrates it, who can flip a switch, who can flag you, who can quietly change the rules. We got a preview of how fast, temporary, digital requirements can harden into something more permanent during the COVID era. Vaccine passports were sold as short-term public health tools, and in many places they became a gatekeeping mechanism. Access for some, exclusion for others. Once the infrastructure exists, it doesn't take much to repurpose it. You don't need new technology, you just need a new policy. So when people say, relax, it's voluntary, it's worth remembering how often voluntary becomes mandatory once the pipes are installed. And this is exactly why digital ID makes so many people uneasy. Not because technology is evil. Not because convenience is automatically suspicious, but because centralized systems have a predictable pattern. They expand. They don't shrink. Now zoom out for a second. Digital ID aren't just about you proving who you are. They can become the foundation for how you move through society, how you travel, how you bank, how you access healthcare, how you enter public spaces, how you participate in the economy. And that's where the conversation gets bigger than privacy. It becomes a conversation about autonomy. Take financial life, for example. For billions of people, not having formal banking isn't just inconvenient, it's a barrier to opportunity. Without a bank account, saving is risky. Borrowing is difficult. Building stability becomes harder. The World Bank has estimated that nearly 1.7 billion adults worldwide lack access to formal financial services. That's not a niche issue. That's a massive portion of humanity navigating life without the tools most of us take for granted. Digital identity systems are often promoted as a way to bring the unbanked into financial services, linking a verified identity to mobile wallets or newer digital finance platforms. There's a real upside to that. Verified identity could open doors to microloans, safe savings, and access to markets. It's often argued that digital transactions can change lives. For example, Kenya's M-Pesa mobile money system has been credited with helping lift over 200,000 households out of extreme poverty by making it easier to save and transfer money without traditional banks. So yes, there's promise here. But again, what's the trade? If the solution requires centralized control, then inclusion can become another form of dependence. If your identity, your money, and your access all run through the same gatekeeping system, then one policy change or one algorithmic blacklist can shut you out overnight. That's not empowerment, that's fragility. And once identity becomes the new currency of participation, every transaction becomes a data point. And data is power. This is why the argument keeps circling back to the same tension. Convenience versus control, efficiency versus autonomy, streamlined access versus surveillance. And it's not just finance. Bring that logic into healthcare. The pitch is seductive. No more fragmented records, no more repeating your history to every new doctor, no more lost files. Your medical profile appears instantly. Care becomes personalized. Everything is faster. Everything is smoother. But the same question returns: who controls the rails? If your health records are tied to a centralized identity system, then health data can be used for more than care. It can be used for compliance. It can become a lever, a passport to services, or a barrier. And when those systems are tied to biometrics, it's not just your data on the line, it's your access to life. It also extends to public infrastructure, frequently referred to as smart cities. The dream being sold is a city where services anticipate your needs, where bureaucracy disappears, where renewing a license or accessing benefits becomes a few taps on your phone. But it also warns that when every interaction with the state requires a digital handshake, that handshake can come with strings attached. Then there's the case study angle. Europe is making a massive push, including a digital wallet initiative funded at around €1.3 billion, marketed as convenience, but seen by critics as a potential Trojan horse for deeper tracking and over-identification. And it also points to executive actions in the United States described as expanding the use of digital ID for access to public benefits. Again, framed as streamlining, but tied to larger questions about surveillance and control. And then there's the corporate angle. Because governments aren't the only ones interested. Financial giants and tech platforms increasingly treat digital identity as the next major commodity. Your identity becomes something that can be analyzed, packaged, monetized. Every swipe, every click, every purchase turns into a line in a profile. And once profiling becomes routine, it's not a big leap to scoring. And once scoring exists, it's not a big leap to restriction. So at this point, you might be thinking, okay, is there any way to get the benefits without the tyranny? That's the critical pivot, because the argument here is not technology bad. The argument is, centralized control is the problem. A different design philosophy exists. Decentralized, self-sovereign systems, where individuals control their own data and decide what to share with whom and for how long. Think of it like this: you shouldn't have to hand someone your entire identity just to prove one fact. If you need to prove you're over 21, you share that single proof, nothing more. If you need to verify eligibility, you share only the minimum required. You keep the rest. You keep the keys. Decentralized identity models aim for that. They try to give you a way to authenticate without giving up control. There are real-world efforts already testing these ideas. Projects exploring decentralized identity frameworks, aimed at proving you can have robust verification without sacrificing privacy. And we've already seen hints of this broader approach in other technologies. Cryptocurrency, for example, showed that peer-to-peer transactions can work without a central authority clearing every move. Whatever your opinion on crypto, the principle matters. It's possible to build systems that don't require a single, all-powerful gatekeeper. So what does that mean for digital ID? It means the future isn't locked. It's contested. Digital ID could become a tool that streamlines life while keeping power distributed, if they're designed that way and demanded that way. Or they could become the backbone of a world where every transaction, every movement, every opinion is monitored, scored, and controlled. And that brings us back to the myth that digital ID are inevitable. People will say, it's coming anyway, so stop fighting it. But inevitability is often just marketing. It's a way to make you surrender before the debate even begins, because convenience always has a price. And if the price is liberty, the bargain is not as clean as it looks. The real choice is not between progress and paranoia. It's between a future where technology serves people and a future where people serve the system. So the next time you hear a pitch for a shiny new digital identity platform, whether it's framed as safety, efficiency, inclusion, healthcare modernization, smart city convenience, or even environmental benefit, pause for a second and ask the only questions that matter. Who controls it? Who holds the keys? Can you opt out? And what happens when you disagree? Because in the digital age, your identity isn't just a name. It's the doorway to your life. And the moment someone else owns the lock, you're no longer fully free. But don't take this as absolute truth. Check it yourself. Question it. Think.
If this kind of thinking resonates with you, subscribe and drop a like. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Any topics you'd like me to cover next? These videos are made for you, after all. See you soon!